By the time Emeka emerged from the kitchen, it was nearly dark. He set a steaming bowl before Ada with a flourish. "Behold, oha soup and fufu, made with love," Emeka announced proudly. Ada stared at the bowl in disbelief. The soup looked more like watery pepper soup with floating leaves. The morning after the wedding, Ada woke up in her new home feeling annoying hunger. The excitement and endless drama of the ceremony had left her too exhausted to eat dinner the night before. Now, her stomach growled in protest. When she stepped into the dining room, Emeka was already there, seated at the head of the table reading a newspaper. He turned to see her, his eyes lighting up. "Oh, my queen," he exclaimed. "Look at you, glowing brighter than the morning sun. How is it possible for someone to wake up looking this beautiful?" Ada couldn't help but smile at the flattery, her earlier hunger momentarily forgotten. She sat down, basking in his compliments, which were always so effortless. The servant soon arrived and served Ada some steaming breakfast. She reached for her fork, but before she could even lift it, Emeka's demeanor changed like harmattan, giving way to rain. "What is this?" he thundered, glaring at the servant. "What kind of disgraceful nonsense is this?" The poor servant froze, clutching the tray nervously. Ada's eyes widened as Emeka stood and picked up the plate, examining it with exaggerated disgust. "This is what you serve my wife? My queen, do you have no shame?" He turned to Ada, shaking his head sorrowfully. "My love, forgive me. My servants clearly do not understand what it means to host a woman of your class." With that, Emeka cast the food into the dustbin and turned back to the servant. "Go and make something worthy of royalty, and don't let me see you bring nonsense like this again." Ada was stunned. She had never seen this side of Emeka before, so fiery and dramatic. She glanced at the servant, who scurried away, muttering apologies. "Emeka, it wasn't that bad," Ada ventured cautiously, still recovering from the scene. "No, my darling," Emeka replied, his tone suddenly soft and apologetic. "You deserve only the best, and that food was far from it. Please forgive my servants, they are not used to catering for someone as delicate and refined as you." Ada blinked, unsure whether to feel flattered or irritated. Her stomach growled louder, and she rested her chin in her palm, waiting. Minutes turned into what felt like an eternity. When the servant finally returned with a new dish, Ada eagerly leaned forward, but Emeka's expression darkened again the moment he saw the food. "This is poison," he declared angrily, pointing dramatically at the plate. "Are you trying to harm my wife? Look at this disaster. My Ada cannot eat this, it is not even fit for the dogs at her father's house." He snatched the tray from the table, glaring at the servant, who was near tears by now. "Emeka, stop," Ada interrupted, hunger sharpening her tone. "Let me at least taste it. The food looks fine." But Emeka held up his hand, shaking his head solemnly. "My dear, hunger must be dulling your eyes. I cannot allow you to suffer such indignity. No, I will take matters into my own hands. This servant clearly needs a day off." With that, he dismissed the servant and put on an apron. "Where are you going?" Ada asked, eyeing him skeptically. "To the kitchen," Emeka announced proudly. "I will prepare breakfast for my darling wife myself. Only I can ensure it is perfect." Ada opened her mouth to protest, but Emeka was already halfway to the kitchen. The clattering of pots and pans soon followed, along with a burning smell that wafted through the house. Ada sighed and leaned forward in her chair, her stomach grumbling louder as the minutes stretched into hours. Finally, after 3 long hours, Emeka emerged from the kitchen, a triumphant smile on his face and a tray in his hands. He set it down before Ada with great ceremony, revealing a plate of half-burnt toast and scrambled eggs glistening with too much fat. "Breakfast is served, my love," he declared. Ada began to eat the food hungrily. The toast was dry, the eggs were salty, but she was too famished to care. When she was done, she pushed the plate aside and she quietly thanked him and went back to the bedroom. Emeka watched her go, scratching his head in confusion. She hadn't complained or made any sharp remarks. In fact, she seemed almost subdued. He smiled to himself, a glimmer of triumph in his eyes. At lunchtime, the food drama began anew with another servant. Each dish the servant presented was met with Emeka's fury. "What is this abomination?" he bellowed at the trembling servant. "Are you trying to harm my delicate wife?" Ada sat silently, her stomach growling in protest. She would have stormed out to find food, but Emeka's country home was too far from any restaurant, and she couldn't drive. After the fourth rejected meal, Emeka finally sighed and waved the servant away. "Take the day off, I'll prepare the meal myself," Ada groaned internally. "Not again." By the time Emeka emerged from the kitchen, it was nearly dark. He set a steaming bowl before Ada with a flourish. "Behold, oha soup and fufu, made with love," Emeka announced proudly. Ada stared at the bowl in disbelief. The soup looked more like watery pepper soup with floating leaves. But hunger overrode her horror. She picked at the chunks of meat, downing it with copious amounts of water to mask the excessive salt and pepper. When she finished, Ada thanked him quietly and retreated to the bedroom, too tired to argue. Emeka watched her leave, a mixture of guilt and satisfaction in his eyes. His plan seemed to be working, but he couldn't help feeling bad for putting her through such an ordeal. The next morning, as Emeka strode into the dining room, he froze mid-step, with his mouth gaping. Ada stood by the table, serving breakfast herself. Emeka gawked at her. "Close your mouth before flies fly in," she snapped, not sparing him a glance. "Why is my delicate wife in the kitchen?" he asked, incredulous. "Where are the maids? How could they allow this?" "They are fine," Ada replied curtly. "I decided to cook myself before you kill me with your so-called masterpieces. Since you don't like the maid's food, at least you won't reject mine." Emeka burst into laughter, his face lighting up with admiration. "Oh, my queen. You continue to amaze me." Ada ignored him, focusing on her meal. Later that day, Ada's younger sister, Ifeoma, arrived for a visit. She was stunned to find Ada stirring a pot in the kitchen. Ada, 2 days of marriage and you've changed so much," Ifeoma teased. Ada rolled her eyes. "It's not what you think. Your in-law is impossible. He rejects everything the cooks prepare and then spends hours making his own concoctions that could send someone to the hospital. I'm cooking to save my life." Ifeoma laughed so hard that tears streamed down her cheeks. "Eyo. But it's sweet of him to care so much." Ada glared at her. "Sweet coo. I don't want that kind of sweetness that will kill me." Just then, the vegetable vendor arrived with Ada's order. When Ada saw the wilted vegetables, her patience snapped. "What is this nonsense? I asked for fresh vegetables. Why are you so daft for a grown-up man?" she barked. The vendor frowned. Madam, this is what's available in the market. No need to talk to me like that." Ada was taken aback. "How dare you talk back to me?" Ada shot back. The commotion drew Emeka outside. His gaze hardened as he addressed the vendor. "You dare accuse my wife of being rude? She's only expressing her honest disappointment." The vendor stood his ground. "Oga, she was rude." Before anyone could intervene, Emeka lunged at the man. The vendor dodged and bolted, but Emeka chased him out onto the street. "Emeka, stop!" Ada and Ifeoma shouted, running after him. Just as Emeka gained on the vendor, his foot hit a banana peel, and he fell flat on his back. He lay still. Ada screamed, "My husband! My husband!" She ran to him, shaking him frantically. The vendor trembled with fear. Madam, it's your fault. If you hadn't been rude, this wouldn't have happened." The words pierced Ada's heart. She wept, holding Emeka close. "Please, my husband, wake up. I'll never be rude again, please." That evening, under the glow of the moon, Ada and Emeka sat side by side, her head resting on his shoulder. Emeka had only suffered a minor concussion from his fall, yet Ada was as happy as if he'd survived an open-heart surgery. "You've been playing tricks on me, haven't you?" Ada asked, her voice soft but accusing. Emeka grinned sheepishly. "Maybe just a little. How did you find out?" "The vendor," Ada said, a small smile playing on her lips. "He confessed everything. He thought you were going to die." Emeka chuckled. "Poor man. The fall was not part of the plan. I was only supposed to chase him around the village. But my God was not asleep. He manifested in banana peel," Ada remarked playfully. Emeka's expression turned serious. "I'm sorry, Ada. I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted to show you that life doesn't always have to be a battle." Ada gazed at him, her tone gentle. "I've learned something important, Emeka. Being strong doesn't mean being harsh. I should always think about how my words affect others. But don't think I've lost all my fire." Emeka chuckled. "I wouldn't have it any other way," he said. They both laughed softly, their bond stronger than ever. Now, with Ada happily settled, Ifeoma married her sweetheart, Chinedu, and the whole town celebrated. Chief Okeke was overjoyed to see both his daughters thriving. From then on, Ada and Emeka became the talk of Amakwa, not for their quarrels, but for their loving partnership. Their story taught everyone that even the fiercest hearts could be softened with patience, humor, and love.